Michael, I want to get your reaction to these affinity groups that have sort of gone. I mean, listen, political affinity groups, this is like old as politics, right? But so first we had a huge organizing call that was like Black women for Kamala, then it was Black men for Kamala, then we had other minority groups, and then we went all in with the affectionately named Karens for Kamala and the white dudes for Kamala. Let's take a look at a little bit of the content that is being created out of the Karens for Kamala Zoom call.
Ariel Fodor, affectionately known as Mrs. Frazzle, to her combined audience of over 1.5 million followers, is here to help gentle parent us through this election.
I'm going to share some do's and don'ts for getting involved in politics online and navigating the toxicity that comes with it. And spoiler alert, as much as the toxicity can come from the outside, it can come from us too. So first, don't isolate yourself. We can do our best work when we're in community together like we are tonight, because the toxic feels smaller when we support each other. But don't make it about yourself. As white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes. If you find yourself talking over or speaking for BIPOC individuals, or God forbid, correcting them, just take a beat. And instead, we can put our listening ears on. So do learn from and amplify the voices of those who have been historically marginalized, and use the privilege you have in order to push for systemic change. As white people, we have a lot to learn and unlearn. So do check your blind spots. You are responsible for your algorithm.
So, Michael, I personally find this woman as a white woman, as a member of the white woman community, I find this woman to be extremely irritating and off-putting. But you know, when you start having white identity affinity groups, I get really uncomfortable. And I wonder what your reaction is, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, innately, it makes you a little nervous. You know, you get a white guy call, you wonder whether it's going to end up like Charlottesville. But, you know, I think this is how, if it's going to happen, how you want it to happen. Like, I'm not afraid necessarily of, you know, the white guy call and the white.
All right, but Michael, what if it's the white guys for Trump call? Then how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it makes me nervous because of what has happened when white men congregate around Trump. In and of themselves, I'm not worried about a bunch of white guys together. That's just called a fraternity. But when you put them together around Trump, then other things start to happen. So, you know, I think there's got to be context to it.
Ryan, I know you're running low on time, so I want to get your reaction, because I actually saw you not defend per se, but you were like, hey, it's actually smart to reach out for white people. There's a lot of white people in this country who vote. So
that would be great.
Yeah, the real question is should Trump just have white guys for Trump, white women for Trump, and all of those calls? Because clearly you can raise a hell of a lot of money whenever you do a phone call like this.
I would have given someone everything on my bank account if after she was done talking, they said, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. I literally was so insufferable. I watched the white guys for Trump call, and the one interesting thing was they said, what policies is Biden champion that are positive for white men? That's actually a really important question, one that people are not allowed to talk about. And I think that I really think that there is a new door that has been opened in politics because of this. If we're going to talk about what are the interests of white people in this country and white voters in this country, by the way, which overlap with many, many other people. Yes. It's not a white exclusive policy, but there are 200 million white people in this country, and no one has ever, one, asked for their vote, and two, specifically asked for their vote, and two, talked about policies that work in their benefit. We kind of, you know, have comments like suburban woman, white blue collar worker, which just means a white person of a certain income level. But I think that it's a really important conversation because there's millions of people. The reason Trump became president in 2016 was speaking towards people who felt marginalized and invisible. And maybe this is the very first step, maybe not these calls, but the very first step to having a conversation to how to reach out to help the lives of people who feel marginalized and invisible.
I mean, as a class first leftist, I find that I don't support that way of looking at things. Michael, I wonder if you feel that we need to do spend more time thinking about what would be good specifically for white Americans.
Yeah, I mean, look, a rising tide lifts all boats. So usually what helps white Americans should to some degree help other people, but that hasn't been historically true. And so I think, yeah, focusing a lot of attention on what's going to help white America that's just the norm. So I think allocating our time towards making sure that groups, minority groups, subgroups are being lifted up is really the focus. But I do think you do have a little bit of a point in terms that the Democratic Party has to be better at talking to white men, because as much as I talk to Democrats, when I talk to kind of independent and right-leaning men, they do feel like they're being left out of a lot of the conversation. And whether that's right or not, it's how they feel. And so it has to be addressed.
That's my last question actually for Ryan, which is, there has been a long obsession in Republican politics about increasing minority vote share. Obviously, this would change things in a different direction. Do you think then that because of the recognition amongst the Trump campaign, are they going to continue to try and go down the blacks for Trump, Latinos for Trump lane, which very rarely, if ever, actually materializes? Or is it going to come down to the recognition of, as you just said, all we have to do is take Kamala's white male percentage from 17 to 15, and she's going to lose the entire election? How do you think they're thinking about it internally?
From what I've heard is obviously they're looking to double down on Hispanic growth that happened in 2020 and Black growth that happened in 2020. But that being said, the election is about white voters. White voters in the Midwest and the Rust Belt are the most important group of people in this election. And, as the whole, rising tide lifts all boats, that's true. But there are certain problems that are specific to the Black community. There are certain problems that are specific to the white community. We have a suicide epidemic among middle-aged white men that is very specific to their group. We have had a fentanyl crisis. We've had a deindustrialization crisis. We've had a rural America a crisis in rural America that has certainly affected them differently. We have a suicide crisis among white teenagers that is differently than among the homicide crisis among Black teenagers. These are just different things. It's not wrong to talk about them, to them, about how to make their lives better, about what's affecting them. Talk about reducing crime and improving an economy. Yeah, that helps everybody. But speaking specifically to the things that are affecting them where they live, that's something that people haven't done, that Trump did pretty well in 2016, that I hope J.D. Vance and Trump do this time around.
If memory serves correctly, the one demographic group that Democrats actually improved their performance on in 2020 was white men.
That's true.
So I guess the Democrats are doing something right with regards to this group. Gentlemen, great to see you both. I really appreciate both your perspectives.
It was great to see you both. It really was. It was fun.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.